Welcome to the Seven Figure Leaders podcast. This podcast was created to celebrate the success stories of seven-figure business owners, giving them a platform to share their insights and lessons learned in order to inspire other business owners. As well as that, it's an opportunity to build new connections. So if you're a seven-figure business owner or someone who works with seven-figure business owners and you're looking for introductions to potential stakeholders, strategic partners and clients, I'd love to hear from you or have you on as a guest and see if I can help make those connections for you. Just go to synergycfosolutions.co. That's synergycfosolutions.co and click podcast. And there you'll find the link to apply. Welcome, everyone. Today we've got Rich Evans, founder and exited founder of multiple businesses. Welcome, Rich.
How are you doing, Tom?
All good, all good. So you've got your finger in lots of pies. You're doing lots of things. So I guess tell us a bit about yourself and what you're up to.
Let's keep it short and sweet and in a nutshell. So I've been self-employed business owner for over a decade now. So probably started quite young. And yeah, let's keep it sweet and short. So I founded a business called Bold Identities from my kitchen table, going back a fair few years now. I sold and exited that business about 2 years ago now. And since then, I've been up to a few things. So one is I've invested in a few individuals to start their own business. So helping them with both a little bit of capital, but also support to get them off the ground, which has been good. And they're doing okay, which is the main thing, which is a mix of in the recruitment industry, but also marketing as well. So marketing agencies, recruitment agencies. So that keeps me busy. I also run a business that supports small business owners, essentially, very much with maybe the primary thing is with sales and marketing, making sure they've got a sales and marketing plan, making sure they're sticking to it, making sure they're pushing and growing. We do various other things within that group as well. And do, like most people who've been on a similar journey to me, one-to-one consultancy with businesses all the way from startup to 8 figures plus at the moment as well. So it's nice, it's varied. So a lot of days, yeah, I suppose from a top level perspective, look quite similar. But in terms of who I'm helping out, sometimes it's there's some variance to it, which is nice, mate. It's good.
Wow, sounds like you've got a lot going on, and I guess there's a few different directions we could take this in. The thing that I suppose you said that caught my attention the most was what you're doing at the moment. So the sales and marketing coaching and the small businesses you're helping at the moment. So who is that for and what is it?
Yeah, so good question. Specifically, there is a range of different businesses in there. However, they're all B2B service businesses. So I think there's a couple of tech brands in there, but we don't focus on that because sometimes you can be slowed down by capital raising, funding, product development, all that type of stuff. So I really fucking love working with B2B service businesses, which some people probably think boring. It's kind of your bread and butter businesses, marketing agencies, recruitment agencies, accountancy practices, any business that sells a service to another business, essentially. One is that's the world that I've lived in. And two is a lot in terms of how those businesses run, particularly from a sales and marketing perspective. They run very similar. So a lot of the principles and fundamentals apply across the board. So B2B service, like working with founders in particular. However, we do work with some revenue leaders as well. So when I mean revenue leaders, I mean people who lead a marketing function, sales leaders as well. And we've pretty much just opened the doors to that, which is, it's a bit different because we've got different stage businesses in there now, which is good, but it's all relevant across the board to them as well. So yeah, I'd like to think it's fairly valuable. It's nice because we've been going about a year now. I'm a real impatient fucker. So I think at first it was tough because I'm like, I want everyone to get results and I really care, but these things also, there's no magic wand where you can make people a overnight zillionaire or whatever. And ultimately, good businesses are built up over time by doing certain things and sticking to certain principles and implementing certain tactics and strategies and the rest of it. So think I'm really enjoying it now because we're a year in and we're starting to see some really good results. Like we started at point A and we're here at point B now, which is the most rewarding thing. I know we all say it, but yeah, I think results is what kind of motivates me the most nowadays, is seeing others progress and do well and all the rest of it, which I'm sure most people say, but yeah, it's fundamentally true anyway.
Well, it sounds like it's making a big impact. And so how does it work? So is it a community with, say, weekly, monthly coaching or something like that from you, or what is it?
There's a lot to it, so I'll keep it simple. So we don't we kind of do this when we onboard people, so we don't overwhelm people as well, because there's loads of different things we do to help business owners and revenue leaders. But the main thing is we work with them to create a sales and marketing plan. So we help them do that, and then we help them implement it as well. Because top level strategy is okay. Like we can get a lot of that for free. Maybe a lot of that you read from major influencers with 1 million followers and all the rest of it isn't that relevant for a lot of people that I work with, because unfortunately they're not sat with 1 million followers. So it's a case of like getting people to understand the fundamentals of what a good sales and marketing plan looks like, work with them on that and give them that, and then ultimately help them execute and implement along the way as well. Because it's one thing understanding it and having a strategy. The next thing is implementing it along the way. And there's obviously 1,000 micro ingredients below moving forward. So the most important thing really is we can all learn, and a lot of us will know already what a good sales and marketing strategy and plan looks like. However, where people give up is when they hit speed bumps or roadblocks. And for me, people might tell you different and customers might tell you different. For me, that's the biggest value of the Unbound group. One, because you're surrounded by a load of other peers going on the same journey who likely have had the same speed bumps and roadblocks before. And number two is naturally, there's a couple of calls a week where they can speak about this stuff. So, okay, I need some feedback on this. This isn't quite working. Why isn't this working? Because ultimately, like, there's a lot of people out there that, and it's one of those in like the business education industry. There's a lot of people out there that are full of shit. And there's a lot of people out there that maybe, one, haven't sold anything in their life or consistently, or two, don't really care about people getting results. It's like, let's take your money, we've done what we said, and that's it. And for me, it's about like, let's roll with the punches with people. So there's calls every week where people come on and like, right, this is what I was up to last week. This is a part of strategy I'm doing. Like, this isn't working for me. This is working for me, and all the rest of it. And it's about keeping moving people fucking forward along that journey, which primarily people join for sales and marketing, but also there's that side of it where some of it's mindset as well, in terms of, look, a lot of business is fundamentally about consistency. So one, having the right plan, but then two, being consistent in terms of implementing it as well. And hopefully we provide the platform for that, where they've got skin in the game because they're paying money. Yeah. They've got accountability because I'm on at them, and I'll be checking in. And they're around people on a similar journey, essentially. And listen, there's no like, we're the holy grail guru and the rest of it, and this is exactly what you should do, because business is just one big experiment. But what's good is when you've got people around you or access to people who are maybe a couple of steps ahead and who've done more experiments than you. That's it. Like, for me, that's what it's about. Okay. And I do it myself with like my mentors, coaches, advisors. It's like, they're a couple of steps ahead of me in this area. I want to save time. They've run more experiments. It means I need to run less because I can tap into the experiments that they've run before. So I probably said quite a lot there, but I'm quite passionate about that, because it's actually quite a tough industry to operate in because of the lack of trust in terms of a lot of business education, business coaches, programs, and fucking hell, you go on Instagram now and then everyone's a business coach. So there you go.
Yeah. And yeah, you said a few things there that definitely resonated with me. One was the accountability and having skin in the game. Someone's paying for something, or if you pay for something, naturally you're going to be more invested in it. someone to keep you accountable, making sure you're actually doing what you say you're going to do. And then the other one that you mentioned was working with people who are just a few steps ahead of you. So
Yeah,
a mentor who hasn't got a million followers, if you haven't got a million followers, but
I haven't.
as in if
A long way off.
if one doesn't have a million followers, but just a couple of steps ahead. And at the end of the day, you either pay with time or you pay with money. So you can either pay that person to teach you how to do it, and you'll get there in whatever period of time, 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, or you can not do that. And at the end of the day, you pay with your own time, and that might take you a year, or you never reach it. So
Yeah. What is
yeah.
the cost to running these experiments yourself? I think working that out is a good thing to understand. And again, like I'm doing more in the property world nowadays. I work with a mentor on that side of things because I don't want to spend years working it all out myself. I'd rather shortcut things as well. And shortcuts are one of those words like there's no magic one. There's no like huge shortcuts, but there's a lot of lessons and a lot of experiments that have been done just to avoid a lot of mistakes and shorten that curve in terms of like what success looks like as well. So yeah, it's interesting one because I've had a bit more exposure to like the coaching industry in the last year because I've fallen into it. Like I've said this on another podcast, Unbound was a mistake. It wasn't a master plan. Like I was working with a few people one-to-one, stuck them in a WhatsApp group because I thought they'd get on and add value to each other. Next thing you know, we're doing group sessions. Next thing you know, putting a lot of training on a portal, worksheets, resources to get there. Next thing you know, I've got a business partner and 50 members. It's like it kind of just grew arms and legs in that fashion by mistake at first, and since then, naturally, there's been a little bit more strategy around it as well. But it's one of the things that I'm up to at the moment. And it's a real passion project. It really is. Like it's very rewarding when people are going out there implementing and getting results. But the other stuff I do is really like I'm really passionate about as well, like the investment in individuals who are the right people and want support. So I've turned down a couple of investments recently. And it's about getting the right people. And I'm really fucking lucky, like the people I'm working with on the investment front in particular, like they're great. They're really good to work with. So yeah, shout out to those guys as well.
Great. Well, we can have a conversation about that afterwards because I've got a couple of people who might be worthwhile introductions there. So changing the path a little bit. So you mentioned before we went live with the podcast, you started a marketing agency, exited it, and then you've also got other investments that you're kind of involved with. Which part of that? Which part of that do you want to kind of talk about? I don't know, maybe the journey you've been on. Let's say with this selling the marketing agency, that sounds like quite a good mountain to get over.
Yeah, I think most people will probably resonate with that the most. I don't know your audience, but most people are first-time business owners or going on that journey with X goal in the head, whether it's to hit 7 figures, whether it's to sell a business. Like a lot of people, that's their goals, isn't it? So we can happily talk about that, mate. So fire away with any questions you want.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot we can talk about. So I guess for most people, it's going to be how do you? Well, there's two ways that we can go. One is actually getting started and gaining traction, and then the other is selling it. And those things are notoriously difficult, and the stats are not in anyone's favor. So perhaps if you could answer both of those, what challenges did you face, and how did you get over them?
Yeah, I think the first one we could probably talk about for like 10 hours or so, if not more. So let's think about that. So I think first and foremost, let's start really early days. Like it's tough just to get things off the ground. And I think maybe what was a benefit to me is that I started my business career in door-to-door sales, moved into telesales, moved into recruitment, and was very much from that sales environment. And ultimately, I wrote this in a post yesterday, like all the other impacts we want to make in the world and blah, 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 purpose and everything else. Like the job of a business is to make money. So the main job of a business owner is to make money. And I think this is where some people go wrong. Like everything should be focused on making money. And I think like there's listen, the tech world's different and all the rest of it. And naturally I do invest in people, but a lot of people do lean on like overextending the debts and all the rest of it, not understanding the basics of finance and cash flow, which is probably something that you can talk about as well. And ultimately, like, how are we fucking driving revenue at all times? And it's that mindset of, okay, well, we need revenue to pay the bills. Like, there were certain times where we were both waiting for invoices just so at the time, like, I had no kids and the rest of it. It was like, need this invoice paid because I wouldn't mind going for a beer tonight. Like, so very early days in terms of like short-term cash flow. But then it's a case of understanding the activities you could do to make revenue generation easier in the future as well. So having that kind of like macro level long-term mindset as we're doing the right actions that's going to make our life easier in the future. Also with those micro day-to-day actions in terms of stuff that makes shit happen now, essentially. So yeah, obviously loads of lessons along the way. We can probably dig into loads of different stuff, and it's a lot of stuff that I share with people when we're trying to grow a business and revenue generation, whether it's sales, marketing, productizing service businesses effectively and making that work for you as well, to processes, delivery, hiring the right people and all the rest of it. So I'm sure there's loads that we can cover there, but feel free to scratch any of those points as well.
Yeah, well, I think the point that you mentioned about the purpose of a business, and that's pretty much that's the same angle I come from with what I go through with my clients. It's that 50% of businesses fail within 5 years, and whatever the surface level reason for that failure is, the underlying reason was that the business wasn't making enough money, because nobody would close down a business that is making money. So number one, the goal has to be to avoid failure. But number two, the goal is, once we avoid failure, how do we fix the problems in our business and grow the business? And the answer to that is always generating more cash, because cash solves every problem within a business. So then we're back to, right, so how do we maximize cash flow and profits consistently so that we can fix the problems in our business and not fail? So that's the angle I go for with kind of my clients, and it's pretty much in line with what you said, that the business has to make money, otherwise we're not going to be here in 5 years. And if we are here, we're not going to have any cash to fix the problems in the business. So we're kind of in the same position we're in now. So yeah, interesting way of going about it. So then fast forward, how many years was it between then when you started and then when you kind of sold the thing?
I think it's about 6 years. So there was a 5-year goal to build it and exit. Like the number was always 5 years. However, it was about 6, so wasn't far off. I'll take that. Yeah. But ultimately we got to a stage where I took on a techie co-founder who looked after the tech side of things, because we did a lot of in the web game and development game and all the rest of it. So I started the business and then got a co-founder in after we'd won a project or two, who was on the tech side of things. And then we got to the stage where I was like, well, we've done our 5-year plan, we've hit the revenue goals, and the plan was to exit. And ultimately, I suppose the initial plan was to sell it together and exit. Now, what happened was we started working with like M&A firms. We'd actually paid a fee for one as well, and started going through the process of looking at potential trade sales and all the rest of it. And my co-founder was very much of the mindset of look at the valuations and the offers coming in, and like maybe the interest that they were bringing forward is, maybe wasn't ready and wanted more money. And I was very much, well, that figure will do me. I'm okay with that. So we'll go down the management buyout route, which we did. So yeah. And then, but to be fair, I suppose it made it quite a little bit easier because it was a clean exit, and one person who had been there had stayed on, and the management team stayed on for a fair while as well. We won't get into too much detail in terms of like, I suppose some effects in terms of after the exit and all that type of stuff, because I think any exit is obviously going to provide challenges to the business, particularly when, and it's nothing, not saying it's down to me or the rest of it, but I think you take one founder out of it and you've got a plan and you've got to put contingency plans in place to make sure certain things don't happen and move forward and all the rest of it. I don't think that's for today. And I don't think it's really what maybe the audience listening today are bothered about. They're bothered about maybe going from 0 to 6 to 7 figures and going on that journey, which is, I suppose, where most of my audience is and likely some of yours as well.
That's great. Yeah. And so your focus whilst you were at that agency, was it all sales and marketing pretty much?
I wore every hat. So I did project management. I helped recruit the development team. I think when it comes to like that question of like, where have you spent your 10,000 hours? It'll come down to sales and marketing. I think that was my main driver. And naturally, I think should be the main focus. But customer experience isn't. I've just done a sales and marketing workshop this morning. And one of the 10 principles is delivering an unbelievable customer experience. It's the best marketing strategy in the world. Because every customer you get, if you look after them, you'll probably get 10 more just from them. And I was very, very big on that side of things in terms of customer experience. We worked in a niche. Let's really, really look after the customer. So, I think we've got customer acquisition and then retention, and it's very much in terms of like getting that customer experience right from pre-sales to post-sales, and focusing on that. Look, we can solve the other problems and headaches along the way, but I think if a business keeps that as its main priority at all times, then we'll do all right. And it's interesting, isn't it? 'Cause like I was saying, like I work with B2B service businesses. Like the clue is in the industry title, service, like B2B service. And again, mentioned this recently on LinkedIn, like I'm having a nightmare with some suppliers at the moment, a solicitor, a builder, and all the rest of it. It's like the fucking easiest win in business is doing what you said you'd do.
Yeah.
And a bit more. And doing that repeatedly. And it makes sales and marketing a hell of a lot easier. Listen, I've been there where I don't mind mentioning his name because he's a good mate of mine now. Like I traveled up to Edinburgh to see a guy called Chris Peace to work on a brand and website project with him. Selling fucking fresh air. We'd never done anything. We had zero portfolio. And you've got to go through those phases of selling fresh air and while you're building up the evidence and credibility in the background. But as long as you're doing that in the background, then eventually life is going to get a lot easier because you're doing a good job. So, and I think that's the biggest multiplier to any business. Like I've been there, I've sold ads in the Thompson local directory when Google was around, done all the tough sales and marketing. Like we want an easier life, like look after the customers, get some evidence, get some social proof, and the rest of it becomes a lot easier.
Sounds like you've learned a lot along the way, and then you're taking everything you've learned and then applying it in the new community you're building, and then the other ventures that you're involved in that we haven't talked about here.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that I certainly wish I had that when I was starting business. Don't get me wrong, I've worked with coaches, consultants, advisors, and all the rest of it, but obviously that's very, very expensive as well and costs an arm and a leg at times. And we can't all afford that at certain stages of the business. So I certainly wish that I had it. And yeah, it's nice to see like got one guy off the ground last year and he'd never run a business in his life, never done any sales in his life, never done any marketing in his life. And I put capital into that venture and everyone was like, Rich, you fucking crazy. Like, why? And I think you'll know who you are if you're listening. I just knew like mindset, who he was as a person, drivers and the rest of it, that we could make something of it. And then fast forward, I think it was about 9 months from then, had clients on board at a decent capacity and took on his first hire. And it wasn't a junior hire as well. It was a director level hire. And he's progressing nicely. And has it been easy? I'm sure he'll tell you fucking no, it's not, because it never is. But I like that. like in terms of like people who got the right drive and the rest of it, just making their life a little bit easier along the way as well. So that's what I'm certainly proud of over the last year or so. And it maybe works really well because he was a blank canvas. Actually easier to work with than maybe some business owners who've been in the game for a decade or two, because yeah, it's harder to change, isn't it? But when you're working with blank canvas, it's like, well, I'm going to do that because I fucking know nothing else. So yeah, let's give that a go. And fortunately, it's working out really well for him in a market that's been tough to start businesses in. It's been tough for established businesses over the last year or so. Like, we've come out of the post-COVID boom. But for me, I think it's the best time to start a business, because if we can get it going in tough times and put the fundamentals in place, get the right mindset and get the right calluses in the right area, then hopefully when the markets are more buoyant, then it's a bit of an easier ride, isn't it?
Absolutely. So that sounds like a really amazing success story. So, Rich, obviously this platform or this podcast is all about collaborating, building connections. So who in this audience would you like a connection with, or who are you open to connecting with?
Yeah, I think look, B2B business owners service in terms of who we work with, all revenue leaders within those businesses. So sales leaders, marketing leaders. I think, again, in terms of if there's anyone that potentially is looking for investment and support to start their own business, potentially as well. But in terms of the unbound group of people that I work with, a big thing as well is not letting your ego get in the way of getting support. So I've learned a lot about, I suppose, humans in the last 12 months or so in terms of working with so many of them. So it's been certainly a learning curve as well. And I think, particularly on the group stuff that we do, we've got a great group who are happy to share challenges, but there've been the odd people who've come in and like, I don't want to share that in front of a group. And I'm sat there thinking, well, it's not sensitive information. It's very much just letting the ego get in the way of getting support or being open, because I think a lot of people like to think that, they potentially know it all and want to portray that. But I think if you're going to get support and get help with this type of stuff, particularly the way we do things at Unbound, it's kind of like leave the ego at the door and you'll get the fucking most out of it. Because the more that you're open about where you're at and stuff, the more you're going to get out of it, and also get not just support from me and my business partner, Tristan, but the other people in there. We've got everything. We've got 8-figure business owners in there. We've got people who've been CEOs at PLCs. Like, there's some really good heads in there if you're willing to take advantage of it as well. But I think the main thing that gets in the way is one of two things, and they're probably at the same different ends of the spectrum. It's either ego or actually imposter syndrome. Like sometimes people like, oh, I don't want to be in that room. Everyone else knows a lot more than me, and all that type of stuff, which is bullshit as well. Like, we all know next to nothing. Like, in life and business, we all know next to nothing, and time always proves that right. However, it probably comes back to the initial thing, is if we're looking to achieve a goal that someone else has achieved and someone else has run a few more experiments, and we can just shorten the amount of experiments it takes by tapping into those people as well and getting the support. So I think those type of people who are driven and want the goals, but are willing to drop their ego a little bit. And if anyone's sat there thinking, oh yeah, well, I've maybe wanted to join something like that, but I feel like a bit of an imposter, like, it's bollocks. Like, just get involved. Like, not even with ours. Like, there might be something more relevant for two other people's industry. Like, get involved, put yourself out there. I think hopefully in most groups anyway is, no one's judging anything. Like, actually, you're there to get support. So the more support you ask for, the better things run as well.
Yeah, that all really good points. And something else that you haven't directly mentioned it, but you indirectly have, is that anyone who's been running a business for more than, I don't know, 4 or 5 months realizes that it's actually a very lonely place when you're the only one running it. Being around or being part of a community where you meet a couple of times a month or whatever it is, and you've got access to someone who can keep you accountable, bounce ideas off. It's tremendously valuable.
Yeah, 100. You're spot on as well. So I did a mini mastermind for the what I don't like that term, but I've not thought of something else better yet. But like a bit of a there's a group of I think 8 or 9 of us rented a room and we did a session. It was a business strategy day. And I asked someone what was your main takeaway from the day, and it was, do you know what, being around other people and listening to their challenges and understand it's not just me. And I think there's a lot of value in that as well, isn't there? Because a lot of the time, yeah, particularly in the day and age of social media and all the rest of it, everyone's just posting the wins, and I understand that, of course. And yeah, I think just being around people who are on a similar journey to you is very valuable. And I suppose that's another thing as well. Like, even though like Unbound's been going a year, there's like proper friendships in there, like between members. Like there's people who become like really good mates and all the rest of it, which is valuable, isn't it? And again, mentioned it to you when we were catching up before, like it's not related, it's not one of our offerings, but a few of us ended up climbing Yorkshire Three Peaks last week. It was good, just good to be around a few like-minded people. It was bad that it was hard, and it was certainly a challenge. But I think a fundamental part of enjoying the ride is getting around the right people. And going on that journey together as well.
Rich, thank you very much for joining as a guest. We'll make it very easy for anyone who wants to get in touch with you to get in touch. We'll put your LinkedIn profile and your website in the show notes. Anything else you want to share?
All good, mate. I've enjoyed it. So thank you. Thanks for giving us a bit of a platform as well. So grateful, and I'm sure we'll have a few chats as well, because I'm sure there's other areas that we could delve into. But no, thanks for your time as well, Tom. It's been great.
Definitely. Pleasure to have you on. I'm wishing you and the business all the best over the next few years.
Likewise. Same to you, mate.
Thanks for listening. As I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, this podcast was created to celebrate the success stories of 7-figure business owners, giving them a platform to share their insights and lessons learned in order to inspire other business owners. As well as that, it's an opportunity to build new connections. So if you're a 7-figure business owner or someone who works with 7-figure business owners and you're looking for introductions to potential stakeholders, strategic partners and clients, I'd love to hear from you or have you on as a guest and see if I can help make those connections for you. Just go to synergycfosolutions.co. That's synergycfosolutions.co and click podcast. On that page, you'll find the link to apply.